Hey, New Life staff, you made it to module 3. Woo-hoo! You're probably loving this so much right now. But we're jumping in. I will remind, we've been talking about this for the first 2 training models, and we'll keep talking about it, but that's the goal of a leadership pipeline, our heart behind this. The leadership pipeline is an intentional process in which one interacts with another experienced leader to produce transformation in character and competencies that increase their ability to influence people, outcomes, and culture. That's why we're having this conversation. That's what we're talking about, the heart of what we're trying to do. And today we're actually, really start engaging in some of these conversations and putting flesh a little more. First one we use the illustration, like this is the heart of the culture. This is now, and last time we talked about putting some blood or some veins in here. Now we're gonna put some bones.
And veins.
Yeah. We're building this thing as we go. And so that's the heart. And it's our process here at New Life to discover, develop, and deploy leaders. And so today, our conversation is going to be a really fun one, creating systems for development. Woo! Does that not, that sounds like way too much fun here, Kim. You and I.
That gets me so excited, yeah.
I get goosebumps thinking about this.
Yeah.
No, I don't.
No.
Creating systems is, yeah. But Kim, why is this important and where are we going in this conversation?
Yeah, I think it's so important to remember that the importance of a leadership pipeline is so that we can prepare our leaders, we can equip our leaders, and we can inspire our leaders. And when you look at that, we want to prepare our leaders for what we're asking them to walk in. And so really preparing our leaders is that onboarding process. We're getting you ready. We're giving you all the equipment you're going to need. We're preparing you, we're loading your backpack up, and we're telling you what you're going to expect as you walk in this. This is prepare. Well, then the equipping is what Zach said earlier. It's that walking with an experienced leader. So as you go in your service for this leader, we want an experienced leader that's just above them, or maybe even a coach that's just above them, that's going to pour into them, that's going to interact with them, that's going to provide feedback, care, support, love, so that they can grow in that equipping process. And then we want to make sure that we also offer those inspire pieces, that we want to inspire them so that all the preparation, all the equipping launches them to go and serve the way that God has called them to serve within these 4 walls, in their home, and out in the community. So that's what it is. This is a part of that transforming the world through the gospel, through preparation, equipping, and inspiring. And as much as I hate systems, good night, my personality despises stuff like this. I have a heart for people, and I recognize that we've got to have a system to love people well as we grow.
And I almost picture this, like we're going off script here a little bit. That's okay. I know you love grocery shopping for your family. It's your favorite thing in the world to do.
100%.
But imagine if you walked into a grocery store and you had your shopping list, you knew exactly what you were getting, and the cereal was all scattered in different aisles. If meat was in this part, but it was also over here, if milk was in the front and also in the back, if ice cream was somewhere, you had no idea where it was. Like how frustrating, like if a grocery store was not organized, if it didn't have a systems of lines in order where you needed to go to get stuff, like how frustrating would that be?
Well, already with the system, I walk out of the grocery store with more or less than I need. So I can't even imagine without a system what a hot mess I would be. So yeah, I mean, there's a purpose of a system is to keep you from missing things. There's a progress. There's a purpose of it so that you can pick up everything you need along the way. Yeah. And I would love to improve the grocery store process already.
Absolutely.
But
yeah, let's fix our problems first here, and then you can go do those problems.
So speaking of, what do you think here at New Life? What does keep us from having those systems here right now? What are we missing?
Yeah, I know I speak for myself, and I think even through the 2 huddles we have done so far, I think of 3 things. I think we all feel like there's not enough leaders. Like we'd all take 1 more, 5 more, 10 more, 15 more. Like that's hard when you feel like there's a lack of people to support the vision or what you're calling to do. It means you have to fill in the gaps, and that's hard. It's a hard thing to do. And therefore, and another symptom with that is like we become tired, we become weary. This even goes back to those diminished impacts and spiritual growth and energy we talked about with the Moses illustration last month. But when there's challenges, like you become tired and it's harder to press on, it's harder to look forward in there as well. Also, and then with that, and like you just don't know who to ask. You just kind of, in some ways, you almost kind of surrender and give up. Like, well, I tried these 10 people. Like, I don't want to make one more phone call. I don't want to send one more email. Like, I don't have the time. I don't have the energy. And the reality is, like, it's somebody we just surrender and we just give up and go, whatever. And I know I've experienced that. I know you and I have talked about that. I know even going through our huddles, like others are experiencing that. And so what does that look like to create some systems to help people, prepare them, to equip them, and to inspire them for ministry?
Mm-hmm. You know, one of the things that we loved last year when we were able to go on staff retreat and we walked through those cultural statements, one of the ones that we all agreed on is that big church, small field. Now, here's where you go. Systems makes you a cog in the wheel of a big church. But this is where you're wrong with that, okay? A system like this, like Leadership Development Pipeline, helps us to be that big church with a small church feel. Because what is a small church feel? It's that everybody has a place, everybody plays a role, everybody feels welcome, known, and loved. That's why we have Leadership Development Pipeline, so that we can have that small church feel. Now, it doesn't mean they might be known by everybody, but this system allows us to make sure that they are equipped to serve, that they are seen, that they are cared for, that they are walked side by side, and they are inspired to do what God is calling them to do. That's that small church feel. I may not know everybody, and I may not be seen by everybody, but my group of people, in particular, one individual knows me well and cares well for me. And I know that I am valued and have a place at this church. And this is a place that God has called me to serve and be a part of. And the reassurance from all of that really starts at that preparation stage. And so I think this is an important system, not to make us a cog in a wheel, but to really reinforce that small church feel. Because I personally can't pour into 150 people, but I can pour in really well to 10 people. And they can pour in really well to 10 people. And that is where we get that small church feel from.
So that's kind of to summarize where we've been. So the first session, we talked about building the culture, that's heartbeat of leadership development. Last month, you talked about kind of levels of leadership and span of care. And not that none of us are fully there or living in those two things, and we'll keep talking about those individually and as a team and staff. But what does it look like to develop a system where we can care for people well and lead and develop them well? And so that's what we're talking about today.
Great. And our processes for that are preparation, equipping, and inspiring. Right? Prepare, equip, and inspire.
Yeah. So let's jump into this. Like, we all have like a volunteer we could think of that is like underperforming, we would say. Like, how come they don't show up often enough? They are inconsistent. They call in, they call out. Like, whatever the reasons are, like, we're like, how come they just don't get it? I'm
like
guilty.
You see the potential.
Yes.
Why are you not doing
just
what I see you do?
Just show up. Even if you have no potential, just show up and be here. Like, we all have people like that, where, volunteers in all our ministries, like, maybe we get frustrated. And so let's look through this, Kenneth, and you and I have some questions that we're going to talk about. It's so easy for me to point blame at that person and say, get your act together, show up and be here and commit. And the reality, we want to walk through some questions that probably challenge us, saying, oh, maybe we have a system problem, which really means it's a me problem or an us problem, not a you problem. And so why don't you walk us through the first question, and we'll just help us kind of process this a little bit.
Yeah, so as we ask these, be thinking of that person in your ministry that's underperforming. Think of that person, and as you apply these traits, let's ask these questions there. So question number 1, did you screen this person ahead of time by having them complete a questionnaire that identified their gifts, passions, personality, and past experiences? So did you look over that?
Yeah, did you look into their life and make sure this was a really good fit beyond like, oh, I heard somebody say this from the stage that you need help, or I saw this in the bulletin, or I saw, like, make sure it was a good fit for them in their ministry. So yeah, the second one, did you give them a season to pray and observe the ministry in action before they step into leadership? Like Kim, you probably do it the best, and maybe also the worst, maybe as well. Like, why is that important?
It's so important because you really do want them. I think the worst is because I might scare people out of serving in my ministry. But it is, everyone thinks of what it's going to be like. So let's give them an on-ramp to say, okay, let's walk in this. Do you have any questions? What do you think? I don't want you to pray about it and then let's come back. And so you don't want to scare them, but you do want them to be aware of, hey, this is what I'm asking you to do, and this is what this really looks like. And then give them a space to decide, is this what God is calling me to?
Yeah, that's good.
How about, let's see, Zach, did you meet with them one-on-one to discuss the role and responsibility?
Absolutely not. It just, you said you're available, here's what you need to do, and go. But, we're all guilty of that in some ways, I'm sure, in some capacities, but important, and there's just anything when you have a chance to sit down with somebody, it doesn't necessarily be you as a pastor or director or coordinator or volunteer, but it's somebody, sit down one-on-one with them to discuss that role and responsibilities. And did you actually have it written out and all those things? That I'll combine the next one, which says, did you give them a written role description to go over with them? Like, there's something significant when you can sit down with somebody one-on-one over coffee, over lunch, over Zoom, and give them something that you've actually thought out. Like, here's what I'm asking you to do and why we're doing it. And here's the outcomes and the character and all those things that need to be part of it. Like, all those things are so significant in helping somebody set them up to be successful.
Well, and all those things matter. In one of our very first video, we talked about the worst thing for us to do is recruit for a need. That's not what we want to do. When we're recruiting for a need, we will take any breathing body and go put them somewhere, and they don't last. And it's because we didn't do these things. When we are recruiting for the individual, we are asking these questions so that they can serve where God's called them to. So let's look at our next one. Did you provide training in specific skills that you expect for that role?
So the answer is no, probably, for me, in some ways. Like, it's we could try and communicate heart, and heart's really important, and we all do that differently, which is great. But when I think of a greeter, like, I get frustrated if a greeter leaves the door because they're going to go talk to their friends. I'm like, what are you doing? Go, there's still people walking in, like, go back.
Don't do that.
But I think myself, did we, in that onboarding process, did we communicate well what that heart of that job is and build the importance of being able to stay at that door and be there? I think of a small group leader when they end up becoming a teacher more than a facilitator. Like, did I give them the skills to really help them facilitate a conversation, not just teach on a topic? Like, people have potential, but we have to develop that potential in them to help them set into those roles.
Well, it's just like a children's ministry leader, as a preschool teacher. Did I give you the skills? Did I equip you for handling the scenarios that might come up in your classroom? Or am I going to burn you because you don't know what to do when you get in that event?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Usually I just say, go for it, and I'll teach you along the way, which the way means like 5 years later, which means never really happened. But there's something that happens before they start, like giving them those skills they need before they start. So how about this, Kim? Are you providing ongoing communication, support, and development?
That's one of those things we work on, that we're trying to improve, because we do a pretty good job of launching people in the beginning, but then it can almost feel like, man, I left you out there in no man's land. I gave you what you needed. But it is that ongoing walking with them, helping them. It's kind of like the on the job training. I trained you, but now as you go, am I walking that? Is that experienced leader walking with you to help you continue to grow? Yeah. Zach, how about you? Would you say, when you're thinking of that person, how could you answer are you providing feedback on their strengths and the areas in which they need to grow?
Yeah, both this question and the last question are in combination with one another. It means, like, do I have a relationship with somebody? I think we're all really good. As a church as a whole, we really do a good job caring for people I'll say it this way, from a distance. Like, I walk around Sunday morning. A lot of us are walking around saying hi, giving high fives, hello, smiles, and we do that really well. But there's something unique when you could provide, you're in a relationship with somebody and you guys can have, like, just honest conversation. Like, Kim, like, you are so good at this, and I'm so grateful, like, to actually know those things and not be guessing and hoping those things are true, but actually really know what people do really well and say, I'm so grateful you do this so well. And the only way you can do that is when you're in close relationship with somebody, not from a distance. And
right.
And there's value in being, that we have to care for everybody from a distance. but can we care for a few a little closer?
Yeah.
So.
Well, and that leads to that last one, like you said, they're tied in. Are you providing opportunities for that peer-to-peer learning?
Yeah.
Are you providing that opportunity for them to watch someone who's going alongside it with them and then to grow together in that? But all of these are questions that help you decide, man, that person who's really underperforming, was this my fault? Like, because all of these things would be our fault as the leaders of launching them into their new role as a leader. And so where are we as directors, leaders, associates, coaches, in helping them be launched well to be prepared for what we're asking of them and then equipping them as they go? And if we answer no to these, then really maybe it's not their lack of skill, maybe it's our lack of setting them up right.
It's easier to blame them, just be honest. It's not my fault. Like, I helped them. I take them out to coffee and I said, you'll do a great job. And they should do a great job, right?
That $5 Starbucks drink should have gotten me more than this.
And I say that half, joking, but the reality is that there's a part of my heart that I really do. That's the way I function at times. I took them out to coffee. Like, they should be good. Like, what else do they want?
Yeah.
They're adults. They figure it out. And what we're really saying is that we want to care for people and develop them so that they're in it for the long haul. And really, most of us have never received this type of systematic onboarding or development. Like, even through my undergrad and my master's program, like I got books and things that were helpful, but none of that really helped me do my job well.
Right.
There are some classes that were better than others, but like some of this, like none of us have received that. And so this is what we want to provide. We want to provide opportunities to create a systematic onboarding and development process. The core of our problem is that we need to help develop people's skills, is the core problem of their skills or is it our system?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to argue, if we're honest, it's probably our system, not somebody's skill.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe their skill is inadequate for sure for the role, but without a healthy system, we'll never know.
Mm-hmm.
And a strong system is the only way to produce strong leaders. Mm-hmm. And so even in my last total I did last month, a few of us were talking about this idea of a leadership pipeline. At the heart of it, what we're saying is that leaders are developed, they're not born. And so we believe that, and we want to equip God's people for the ministry. But we need a strong system to help produce strong leaders. And so that's kind of where we're going. So there's a lot to go with this, and we'll walk through this. But Kim, we talk about this idea of creating a strong culture, a strong system. Give us kind of the big pieces that go with that.
Well, I want to back up 1 second and say, when we hear verbiage of us like saying strong systems is the only way to produce strong leaders, I want to make sure that you put that in the framework of the fact that we are serving in a church. So strong systems are strong discipleship systems that we're walking through with this to create strong leaders. And those are leaders, like we keep saying, not only in our church, but in their homes and outside. When we're giving someone confidence and equipping them for what they're doing here at church, it has profound effects. And so we want to make sure that we recognize it's not just for the purpose of saying New Life has amazing leaders. It's for the purpose of saying that we're creating leaders for the kingdom of God. And there's a big difference there. And that's why it matters, is to keep people from being a cog in a wheel, but to be profoundly effective with the gifts that God's given us here. So I think the reason why this is so important is it's a big picture of creating the strong system starts with communicating expectations for that role, letting them know what they're getting into, or really what you're asking of them. Then you want to assess the person's fit for the role. This is what it is. Let's look at your giftings. How does your giftings and your passions line up with what this role is asking of you? And maybe that's not the great fit, and let me hand you off somewhere else where it is a better fit. And then give clear steps so that they can take a step into the role. So, hey, next week I'm going to want you to come and do this. And then we're going to follow through with this. Like, what is your plan and journey for them as they can begin to acquire ownership of this role? And then last, talk to them about how they're going to be trained. Like, we're going to have peer-to-peer leadership learning for you. We're going to walk beside you and equip you, as a coach is going to care for you and have equipping conversations, but just praying for you and walking through this and giving you feedback. It's giving them confidence that they don't have to know everything at the beginning. We're going to be right there with you to help you grow and mature through this process. So a system is a great way to make sure that we are producing strong leaders and things don't fall through the crack. We don't want to add to insecurities. We don't want to leave people struggling. This helps us make sure that we are growing in those regards.
So that's our introduction to creating systems of development. And so you give you a passage here, some questions to start there, and we'll come back in at assignment number 1. We'll talk about prepare. And assignment number 2, we'll talk about this idea of equipping and inspiring as we go forward. So enjoy, and we'll see you in a few minutes.